KG Charles Harris was an early pioneer of the big data and analytics market. In 1994, he co-founded Softcom and later Emanio, developing data integration tools for enterprise systems. He launched his first combined tools for business intelligence, dashboarding, and predictive analytics in 2009. You were way ahead of your time, I'm sure, KG. As CEO of Quario, he is using artificial intelligence technologies, natural languaging processing, machine learning, neural networks to make it easy for non-technical users to get insights from big data. He is considered an expert in the field, and Quario was awarded the Software and Internet Industry Association's SIIA Next Gen Award for Big Data in 2 categories, Best Overall and Most Disruptive. So welcome, 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 my friend KG. And hi there, Raphael, good to see you as well. And my brother is actually here as well. So making this a very, very homey and welcoming environment, KG, to hear your story. So I like to tell the story that KG and I are neighbors. We live in the same building here just outside of Emeryville, just outside of San Francisco. And we met in the hot tub. And we had an amazing conversation about business and life and psychology and all these wonderful things. And we've become really good friends. And he's been quite a mentor for me as well. So welcome, welcome, welcome.
And likewise.
Yeah. Mutual admiration. So I have a series of questions that always start out with the premise that patterns that were created in childhood impact us as grown-ups. And that is the premise of Under the Hood. We like to get under the hood of really kind of looking at what makes people tick, people who are successful. A lot of times people have them on, kind of pedestals that they think that, it's kind of been easy, or anybody has all kinds of stories about this stuff. But KG, tell us a little bit about your background, your family of origin, where you're from, and let us get to know you a little bit.
Thank you. So it's a pleasure to meet all of you. I appreciate the opportunity, and so thank you very much, Tina. I was born in Sweden in the second largest city in Sweden called Gothenburg. And I grew up on the west coast of Sweden until I was 13, basically a country boy living in the Swedish countryside. And then my parents got divorced when I was 12, and at 13, my mother decided to take us children back to her country, to her home, which was in Jamaica. So I ended up in Jamaica as a teenager. I had lots of wonderful experiences there. Those of you who know Bob Marley or Peter Tosh or any of those people, I was lucky enough to meet a number of them. And then I returned to Europe for my studies, started as an investment banker after my studies, and ended up being an entrepreneur. And the funny thing about the investment banking was that I couldn't get a job after university. And the finance courses were the ones that I thought were the most boring and uninteresting. And what happened was that I was able to just one moment, please. So I couldn't get a job. Pardon my interruption. My mother just walked in and she was unaware of the fact that I was being interviewed.
No problem.
So I couldn't get a job. And I tried to get jobs with what I wanted to do, which I thought was interesting, and I couldn't get a job in any of those things. And finally, I got a job in investment banking, and I was really desperate at that point because I had a little baby, and how was I going to support that baby? So that's how I ended up in finance, and then after that, entrepreneurship.
Wow, I never knew that about you. That's really, really, really interesting because I could hear your accent, but I never knew you were born in Sweden. So, what kind of behaviors or patterns, given your background in so many of the shifts and changes, did you develop in response to your upbringing? Kind of what kind of characteristics did you kind of pull out of this upbringing?
I think that when I was a kid, I was very inquisitive and adventurous. Yeah, I'd say that those things probably characterized me. Inquisitiveness and adventurousness. And then I moved to Jamaica and I continued having those things, but in school I was a bit of a slacker.
Ah,
I always got good grades without having to work very hard for them. And there were other things that were more interesting, such as girls. So that's what I focused on.
how did I
And in
guess?
response to my upbringing, I think that part of it was that my parents were immigrants in Scandinavia, and and their work ethic and their basically pushing through affected me, not then but later in life, where I must have gotten some of that by symbiosis.
You know, it's interesting. I this is now my seventh show, and that is the key that I hear over and over and over again. You know, from the people who I have interviewed are successful, have really, really interesting backgrounds, but they had parents, for the most part, that had incredible work ethics. And, you know, I like to say that the one thing that my ex-husband did is he taught my children how to work. And I'm wondering again how that has really, really kind of supported you through the ups and downs, you know, kind of some of the challenges that you've had that this work ethic has really kind of pulled you through.
So I would say that my father is an extremely innovative person. His mind just goes everywhere. My mother is a super hard worker, and I got some of both of them. Where I'm not as hard a worker as my mother, but she is just someone who can walk through walls. My father, not so much. And so I've kind of had to train myself to become more like my mother, because being an entrepreneur means that you're going to face really tough times. And unless you're born with the right gender, the right class, the right place, the right everything like that, then maybe you'll
Maybe.
have an easy time, but generally not.
My
And
experience,
so,
nobody gets a free ride.
exactly.
Some people obviously have it much harder than others, you know, in terms of race and class and all those other things, but nobody gets a free ride. It's a myth. It's an absolute myth. So I
That's
also,
true. But if some of these things, if you are, if you're the right gender, the right class, but the wrong place, you'll still have an easier time, right? So it really depends on a variety of factors how difficult things actually are.
yes,
There's a caste system in every society.
this is true. This is true. And so the next question I want to ask you, we know that the hard work and things have helped you kind of along. What were some of the issues that you had personally that you really kind of started to recognize some patterns that weren't working for you, that you really had to do, and we talked about this the other day, some self-reflection and the shifts and changes that you needed to make to keep yourself on course? Kind of what got
Okay,
you
I have a list of about 6,800. So I'll take them in order of priority. So I would say that making excuses. I used to make excuses for why I didn't get things finished, why I wasn't on time, why I couldn't get financing, why? Because of so and so. So by making excuses, I got into a bit of a victim mentality where you're a victim and it kind of becomes a part of your persona because it's never you. Now, the fact of the matter is, some people, as I mentioned before, have a harder time. Some people have an easier time, but everybody has a hard time if they want to do what I'm doing. And the sky is blue. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm a guy. There's nothing I can do about it. Well, maybe sometime that will come. I'm black. There's nothing I can do about it. So there are certain things that are constants, and you have to work around the constants and make it anyway. And once I realized that, then, and that's one thing. The second thing is, when I started this company, I've started 6 companies so far in genomics, in proteomics, enterprise software, artificial intelligence, aquaculture. And when I started this company, it was just so, this is the hardest company of all of them that I've started, right? And I was feeling so sorry for myself. I mean, you have no idea, right? So I was crying, patting myself on the shoulder, and it was just sad. Now, the challenge was that I started complaining a lot. So I'd complain to everybody. And then this friend of mine, a woman, looked at me and said, yeah, but you chose this.
Yes.
I mean, that was like a gut punch. I chose it. You can choose something else if you want to. Yeah, but I didn't want to choose anything else. This is what I want to do. So stop making excuses. Stop complaining.
So
This
she
is
was
your
a
choice.
catalyst. She was a catalyst for you, correct?
She was definitely a catalyst for me. And she literally changed my life, changed my mindset, changed everything. Because it is my choice. If I want something else, I can choose it.
See, I think again, just to kind of put it in here, the concept that we create our own reality. Again, it changed my life. And and for anybody that's listening, of really kind of taking it back, how did I get myself here? Why am I here? What choices did I make? What's in my control? What's out of my control? These are all the questions that we start asking ourselves as you become more reflective, right? More objective and willing to really own kind of what's the good news, what's the not so good news. Because as we know in business, the numbers are there. The numbers tell you things. Right? As my friend is, do the numbers and the numbers will tell you what to do. But we bring our psychology in and we change the picture a little bit and based on a lot of our own patterns, right? We create our own reality, but I like to say that everybody knows your blind spots. Wouldn't you like to know them as well? And that's what it sounds like what that woman really, really helped you do. And so what
Well,
did you do so now that you started to shift, how did things start to shift for you? Once that,
Well, first of all, it took a long time. It was kind of earth-shattering for me to realize that I have nothing to complain about because I'm choosing this. Now, some people don't have a choice. I happen to live in a country, I'm well educated, all kinds of things. And if I don't like what I'm doing, I can go and work at McDonald's, or I can go and get, some other kind of job or whatever, right?
Mhm.
And but not everyone has that opportunity. I do. And so I have nothing to complain about. And her pulling the rug from under my feet like that made me, every time I fell down, I started asking myself, what else do I want to do? And every time I came to the fact that I don't want to do anything else. And therefore, I just need to suck it up and push forward.
right.
But that's thanks to her.
And who else? Who else inspired you and kind of helped you along the way? She was the one that was the catalyst and really kind of got you going.
My parents are really fundamental inspirations for me. When I started my genomics company, it was because of walks I'd taken in the forest with my father, where he's explaining, cell biology to me. And he's explaining, we'd look at feces of animals and he would explain to me, oh, that's a fox, that's this kind of bird, and so on and so forth. And that was, and from his love of biology, I got a love of biology. And then later in life, that was serendipity. I happened to meet a professor of genomics. We hit our heads together and we formed a company. So that was one thing. My mother, likewise, the fact that you never give up. She never, ever gives up. So why should I, right? My wife, she believes in me. I mean, who has that privilege of having someone who believes in you? She has been a major source of healing for me because of her faith in me.
So again, you bring up just these universal topics and issues that have really kind of supported you. And I just want to keep kind of really highlighting them, that this is not magic. You and I were talking the other day, like, okay, so how long has Quario been in existence, right? And you said, how many years?
Soon 10 years.
Soon 10 years, right? And I've been working on this company, Mastering Under Pressure. I'm at 7. And the fact that we don't give up, you know, the age that I'm 75, I can't believe it. I'm the only one out of all my friends that are working, that still are inspired and wanting to change lives and so on, because the personal growth work, that self-reflection, that we never give up. And um, Wayne Dyer wrote a book many years ago, and it's called There's a Spiritual Solution to Every Problem. I don't really know what the rest of the book says, to tell you the truth, but I love the title. There's a spiritual solution to every problem. So when we get into our human problems, kind of what you were talking about, the procrastination and the victimization and all of those things, those are human problems that we make up. We tell ourselves stories to be able to answer questions that as children we can't answer. And I would venture to say that if all of you, if you look back to your childhoods and see where some of these stories come from, children make up stories to answer questions that they don't have answers to. Right? This is how we sort of come into rationalizations and all kinds of things. And then as grown-ups, we're no longer victims in the same way. And yes, there are people all over the world that are still victims. And one of my favorite books, again, is um, Man in Search of Meaning, the psychiatrist that was in a concentration camp. He said they could take away everything, but they can't take away my mind. Right? So the power of your mind and the power of the work ethic and the believing in yourself and community and having
Community.
unity, having people believe in you and supporting you. And these are the things that we want to, activate so many, of the people all over the world with these same ideas and concepts. So I have another question now.
May I?
Yes, please.
Sorry.
No, you go.
Yeah, I mean, to that point about community, my son came to me a few years ago and he said, "Dad, I'm going to become selfish." So I said, "Why?" Because he's a very generous guy. So he said, "I am tired of no one being there for me when I just need a small thing, but I'm always there for people." So we went back and forth for that for a little while. And then I said, "Okay, so now you're going to be selfish. What are you going to get out of it?" "Well, I'm not going to waste my energy on people and blah, blah, blah. I'm going to get more." So I said, "Okay, so what's the number one skill of a selfish person?" I asked him. And he thought about it. And actually, let me ask you guys, what do you think the number one skill of a selfish person is?
Anybody? You can jump in, raise your hand, come off mute. What do you think?
I think it would just be just saying no. No. Me.
Nope.
Yep. What do you
That's
think?
not correct, but it's one thing. But that's not the correct answer.
What do you
Anyone
think?
else? Hannah?
Where's my little Hannah?
Eric?
Anybody got some ideas? My brother Lenny, you must have an idea.
Keeping to himself or herself? No, that's not quite true. Anyone else?
I do like how you use the Socratic method and you turned the question back on your son. What do you plan to get out of it? That was brilliant.
So I basically said to him, the number one skill of a selfish person is the ability to identify generous people. We are all lazy. But if we're generous by nature, we never learn the skill of identifying generous people. And so we give indiscriminately to people. So why not learn that skill, surround yourself with people who you identify to be generous, and that way you can be generous and you don't have to be selfish. You can be true to your nature. And we had many conversations like that while he was growing up. Sorry, I was just thinking about
that's
what you
not
said
sorry.
about
That's
creating
wonderful.
community.
Because I just learned something from, I never thought of it that way. I kind of think of it in terms of in yoga, they have it's called the yamas and the niyamas, and they're the rules of right living. So you read right books, you associate with right people, you eat right food. It's kind of a different way of saying, the same thing, KG. But I love that. I love that. We only have a couple minutes left. I know we could go on with.
Sorry, I blabber.
No, there's
I
no
warned
sorry.
you.
Nope, I told you. I'm in charge, so I let you. It's okay. So I know that you have a wife and 5 children, right? What kind of
Yes.
sacrifices have you had to make in order for you to reach the levels that you are right now?
Ooh. first of all, it's hard to answer that question because we always look back and say, I made a sacrifice, but maybe I was just insensitive to other people's need. Of course, I would like to look at myself as having made a sacrifice versus being insensitive, but that is not necessarily true. So it's a really hard question to answer. I would say that a clear sacrifice I've made is to be so focused on work. It's a sacrifice because what really matters in life is really just two things: health, relationships. If you have those things, you're wealthy.
Yes.
You're truly wealthy. So if you are working a lot and you are not prioritizing these things, then you're making a sacrifice. But the question is, why am I doing it? Am I doing it as a sacrifice, or am I doing it because I'm insensitive, blind, have passion, I'm seeking a dream? I mean, there are many different reasons.
And
I would like to call it a sacrifice.
I love that, because that is the complexity of our lives. And people with big minds and curiosity and passion, we're always trying to balance. And sometimes we do a better job than other times. And again, I keep coming back to this idea of self-reflection, because I do believe that this is the key to world peace. Honestly. And that's why I do this show.
Agree.
I do what I do. And because as we learn to understand ourselves at this deeper level, we understand people, we understand motivation. We figure out who to deal with and who not to deal with, and who to help, and all those other wonderful things. We're just about out of time. I want you to tell people how to get in touch with you. I'll tell you how to get in touch with me, and maybe we'll take one question and go from there. So go ahead. How do we get in touch with you, KG? And we can put it here in the...
And let me put it in chat, actually. That's the easiest.
Okay. Okay. That's how to reach KG. And Larry says he has no idea I was 75. I don't either. I forget about it. And my program is Mastery Under Pressure. And for people that are listening and want to learn more how to manage yourself and learn these skills, please get in touch with me. It's Tina at Mastery Under Pressure. And maybe Hannah, you could put it in the chat. That would be great. We're really out of time, but if anybody wants to stay on for another minute, anybody have one burning question that you want to ask KG, and then we got to go. And I think, KG, you have answered. I think the questions that they might have might take another hour.
Yeah, I'm available. So if someone wants to spend another 5 or 10 minutes, I'm fine with that.
Okay. So put it in the chat. Take yourself off of mute. Anything that anybody wants to contribute, let's just kind of take yourselves off of mute, and I'm going to put everybody back on gallery for a minute. And
Tina, I would just like to say I recently read a book that might echo some of the thoughts by KG. It's called Yes, Sir. It's written by Chuck Andrews, known as Chuck the Hat. He's a CISO as well as a cyber expert, and it says, The Security Influencer's Guide to Succeed Using SIR, Strategy, Intelligence, and Relationships. And I think that sort of sums it all up. As lifelong learners.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Any other last comments, Craig?
So Eric.
Oh, go ahead, KG. Go ahead.
Eric asked a question. what is required to get connected to the right people? Is that do I understand your question correctly, Eric?
To me,
Okay.
yes.
No,
I don't know if you're asking me or who.
I think you
I'm
asked it to
gonna ask
everyone,
Katie
but
to answer that, and just kind of go around it at the end. Yeah.
yeah, so fundamentally, human beings like winners.
Mhm.
If we are a winner, then everybody wants to have contact with us. But most of us actually start as losers. Nobody wants to have contact with a loser. Nobody wants to have contact with someone who's poor. No one who wants to have contact with someone who's powerless. And so that is the conundrum that we need to deal with to solve that question. So the first thing that we have to do is to start having momentum. Nobody wants to deal with someone who is sitting still. But if you're going somewhere, even if you have nothing, then people will start following you and people will start relating to you because they see that you're going somewhere. And even if you're not going somewhere yet, they see that you're trying to go somewhere. And some people will try to help you. Not many, but a few. And all you need is one or two people to get you to the next level. And all the time you're learning more. And all the time you're gathering momentum. And after a while, you're actually going to get to a point where people want to relate to you. Now, this has something to do with being an introvert versus being an extrovert. Some people are shy, some people are outgoing. It doesn't matter. It's exactly the same principles. And every person does it their own way. But it's about gathering momentum and getting moving. And once you start moving, people will start supporting, people will start giving, not many, but a few, and that's all you need.
So the piece that I want to sort of end on, because as I said, we could go on with this, and I think Lewis and we've talked about got to make it a little bit longer, but I do want to respect people's time. Nobody gets to where you want to go without hard work, without relationships, without community, but again, without being honest with yourself. Everything starts right there. You know, I learned a long time ago that I needed to be brutally honest. The truth is, Tina, I started a lot of sentences talking to myself like that. The truth is, and then I go from there, kind of naming the problem, solving the problem, who can help me solve the problem, all of those questions. And I just want to thank everybody for being here. I'm always sad when these shows are over because I know KG has so much, you have so much wisdom to offer, and you just don't get where you're to these wonderful big places without gathering and being caring and being a lifelong learner, as you said, Raphael. And so thank you, everybody. Hormoz, thank you for being here. I can't see you, my brother, Lenny, and everybody else, and I appreciate you. Mastery Under Pressure, I'm really looking to continue to spread the word. If you know any companies, any places where I could speak as well and talk about these things, I would be greatly appreciative. So thank you once again, and we'll see you next month, third Tuesday of every month. I have another wonderful guest, and we keep growing. This community keeps growing. So thank you again,
Thank
KG,
you all.
my guest.
Good job.
Thank you very much, Tina, for the opportunity, and thank you all for being willing to meet with me and listen to me.
See y'all.
Bye-bye. Thank you.